Well, let's drill down into the individual stocks, as Daniel says we should do. And Massmart trades as Macro, Game, Dion Wyatt, Cambridge, and CBW, and importantly for this discussion, as Builders Warehouse and Builders Express. It's 51% held by Walmart and has a market cap of 33.8 billion rand, dividend yield of 2.3%, and a price to earnings ratio of 28. And Paul, I often lose my husband to Builders Warehouse on a Saturday.
Exactly. Look, I think that's a fabulous part of their business. It's really styled on the sort of big box Home Depot type development in the United States. That's at the top end of the market, understood. That's where you get, solar panels and screwdrivers and expensive items to tinker with your house, in addition to the other stuff. The Builders Warehouse Express is a little bit down market, and I saw in the recent results that they're also going out there with a more sort of rural-oriented product, which I think is called the Builders Trade Depot. All fabulous, all excellent, all well-run, and I think that's a very big and important addition to Massmart's attractiveness. It must be said, Massmart, though, has been doing horribly in the market recently.
It has been doing horribly, but before we go into Massmart specifically, Daniel, do you spend some of your weekend time at Builders Warehouse?
Ronwen, I have to be honest with you, I do not spend any time there. That has nothing to do with the company, I'm just not much of a handyman.
Oh, so moving swiftly on, if you look at the business as it currently is, with the pressure that we've seen on Massmart's share price, is there merit in looking at this one? Daniel.
Right, so.
Staying with you.
Yes,
I know you seem disinterested in the sector as a whole.
I was wondering.
Are you sure we've got the right guest here, Paul? He doesn't do any of the odds and ends around the house.
Single male bachelor, those people not in the target market, obviously.
I do read the catalogs though, so I'm pretty up to speed.
So you can pick up the phone and order something on catalog. At least we know that.
That's how things are done these days. Who goes into stores?
Back to the investment case.
So they recently came out with results which were quite disappointing. I mean, specifically Game South Africa did quite poorly. So you can see quite a lot of pressure there. Surprisingly, the Massbuild side was actually one of the star performers in the results, supporting what Paul said, that it's actually quite a good part of the business, but the balance of the business seems to be struggling somewhat at the moment. So I'd say that I'd wait to see how things go. Management has been saying for quite a while that one can expect in the near-term future for the earnings growth to outpace the revenue growth. In other words, to start seeing some margin increases. We have not seen this so far, so I'd be a bit cautious about getting in before we start seeing some hints of that coming through.
Paul, do you like that strategy, a wait-and-see approach?
Look, I'm not so sure. Look, the builders part of that business, I think, is very strong. You would have noticed in the recent results they did do a new distribution center for that part of the business. So I think we're going to see some substantial revenue growth there, and then the trade depot part. And really, Africa is virgin territory with regard to this model. So I think this is really potentially even a spin-off in years to come of a bigger business in this space. I would like to see them use their checkbook to go out and buy perhaps one of the companies we're about to talk about in this show. But net, I think you can buy Massmart now. And the reason is I think that the Walmart guys are going to push this thing forward. It's a buying opportunity, and the American investors will be back to buy this one after you've bought them.
So at about 160 Rand, if we look at that graph, is where Massmart is. And it's gone just post or just above 200 Rand. Is that correct, on all-time high?
Exactly. So it's really come off very heavily. People are a bit grumpy. Not that it stands out in the retail environment. Lots of stocks have done poorly, but
exactly, the sector as a whole has come under pressure just because
I
of
think
the
it's
consumer exposure.
A good opportunity, so definitely a plus.
Do you spend time at Builders Warehouse?
Lots, almost every weekend. What are you talking about?
Are we going to hot or not on Massmart? Daniel, would you like to add anything else?
Look,
considering you're a catalogue buyer.
I'd like to say that I think what the share price graph shows is that the prices have readjusted to the new, more realistic expectations. I think expectations of way too large a magnitude were cooked into that share price. It has realigned.
But it hasn't realigned. We haven't lost all the upside. I mean, if you look at the valuations, they're still relatively heavy, aren't they?
Exactly. That's exactly the point I was coming to. Is that the forward PE multiple on the stock is still. It's quite heavy in the upper 20s, if I'm not mistaken, and that once again leaves very little margin for error. So if we see further downgrades in expectations, you can expect further weakness in the price.
Hot or not on Massmart, Paul?
I think it's hot. At this price, definitely hot.
Daniel, hot or not?
I'd say not.